I thought moving into a quiet neighborhood would make life peaceful. Instead, it was the first step towards something I still don't understand. 3 years ago, my wife and I bought a small house outside the city. It wasn't fancy, but the street was calm, the neighbors were friendly, and for the first time in years, life felt stable. 18 months later, the house next door went up for sale. It was bigger, with a driveway and a garage, so we bought it and put our old place on the market. The couple who moved into our old house seemed normal at first, quiet, polite, kept to themselves, but within weeks, things started to feel off. Some nights, loud music would blast through the walls after midnight, then suddenly stop. Other nights, heavy banging echoed like furniture being dragged across the floor. It never lasted long, just long enough to make sleep impossible. At first, I ignored it. Old houses make noise. People live differently. But then the first real warning sign appeared. One afternoon, the neighbor pulled into his driveway with deep scrapes along both sides of his car, like it had been crushed between two walls. When I asked what happened, he laughed nervously and blamed a parking mistake. The explanation didn't make sense, but I let it go. A few days later, he called me in a panic. He said 2 men were outside his house messing with his security cameras and begged me to look. From my window, I saw them. 2 men near his front door, trying to get inside. I called the police immediately, but by the time they arrived, the men were gone. Nothing stolen, nothing broken, just silence. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. A week later, I was at a friend's house when my phone rang. My wife's voice was shaking. "You need to come home now." Before I could ask why, she gasped. A car engine roared in the background, then a crash. She screamed. The call cut out. My heart pounded the entire drive home. Police lights filled the street when I arrived. The neighbor's car had smashed through his own front door. 2 men were loading expensive electronics into the trunk. TVs, speakers, equipment, moving fast like they knew exactly what to take. This time, the police arrived in minutes. They caught the men while they were still loading the car, but what happened next made no sense. When officers asked for identification, the driver calmly gave my neighbor's name. He said he lived there, but my neighbor barely spoke English. This man spoke fluently, and with confidence. The officers exchanged looks. That's when the driver slammed the car into gear and sped off. What followed was a police chase through our quiet neighborhood streets. They caught him 3 blocks away, but the story didn't end there. Because while officers searched the house, they found someone else inside, and as I stood in my living room giving a statement, trying to process everything, my doorbell rang. When I opened the door, my neighbor stood there. I almost didn't recognize him. His face was swollen, one eye shut, blood dried along his jaw, his arm hung at a strange angle. He looked like a man who had barely survived something violent. He refused medical help, refused to explain, refused to talk to police, and before leaving, he looked straight at me and said something I still think about. "They think I'm already gone." Then he walked back into his house, and locked the door. That night, the street was silent, too silent. Around 1 a.m., our dog began growling at the front door, not barking, growling, low and warning. I checked the door camera. My neighbor was standing on my porch at 1 a.m. He wasn't knocking, he wasn't moving, he was just staring into the camera like he knew we were watching. My dog's growl deepened beside me, low. Warning. Afraid, I opened the live audio. "Are you okay?" I asked through the speaker. He didn't respond, didn't blink, didn't even shift his weight, just stared. After nearly a full minute, he slowly turned his head toward the street, as if he heard something I couldn't. Then he stepped off the porch and walked back into the darkness. The next morning, his house looked normal, too normal. Front door repaired. No broken wood. No sign a car had smashed through it the night before. Even the tire marks were gone. When I asked the police officer still parked down the street about it, he frowned. "There was damage last night," he said. "A lot of it." He drove over with me, We both stood there staring at a door that looked untouched. That was the first moment I felt real fear, not confusion, fear. That afternoon, a moving truck arrived, no company logo, no uniforms, just two men loading boxes from the neighbor's house with mechanical precision, no conversation, no wasted motion. I walked over and asked where the owner was. One of them paused, then said, "He doesn't live here anymore." "Where did he go?" The man stared at me for a moment too long. Then said quietly, "Somewhere safer." They finished loading within minutes and drove away. By sunset, the house sat empty. For the first time since moving in, I felt like I could breathe. That night, the silence returned. No music, no banging, no strange lights, just stillness. At 12:47 a.m., my dog started growling again, this time at the back door. I checked the camera, nothing, just darkness. Then the motion alert triggered, the camera flickered. Static lines crawled across the screen, and for a single frame, less than a second, something appeared behind the glass, too tall, standing too close, gone before my brain could understand what I saw. My dog barked once, then whimpered and backed away. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped onto the back patio. Cold air hit my face. The yard was empty, but the gate at the fence was slowly swinging, back and forth, like someone had just walked through. I locked the gate and returned inside. At 1:03 a.m., the doorbell rang, one single chime. I froze. No one ever uses our front door at that hour. I opened the camera feed, nothing, empty porch. But then the audio picked up something faint, breathing, slow, close to the microphone. Then a whisper, not loud, not threatening, just calm. "They think I'm gone too." The feed cut to static. I opened the door, no one there, just the quiet street. And the empty house next door. We moved 6 weeks later. The house remained empty the entire time. No lights, no cars, no signs of anyone returning. But 2 nights before we left, I checked the porch camera one last time. At exactly 1 a.m., a tall shape stood at the edge of our yard, watching the empty house, waiting. It stayed there for almost 10 minutes, then walked toward the neighbor's door and vanished before reaching it. I never told my wife. Some things feel safer left unsaid, but sometimes, late at night, when everything is silent, I still check the cameras, just in case he comes back, or something else moves in.